This is Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details. Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Nick Emmanwori is literally DK Metcalf playing safety, Chris, and I'm about to show you why. First of all, okay, we're moving to our DBs on our 2025 NFL Draft Positional Breakdown Series, and I got to start with Nick Emmanwori out of South Carolina because, listen, Chris, you want to talk about freak athletes. Let's talk about the best athlete in the NFL Draft. He is the single best athlete in this NFL Draft. Perfect 10 out of 10. Relative athletic score for a strong safety. He also would have been a 10 out of 10 if he were a cornerback, a free safety, or a wide receiver. And if he were a wide receiver, his relative athletic score would have been second best ever, only worse than Calvin Johnson's back when he was getting drafted. So again, Nick Emmanwori is one of the best athletes we've ever seen come into the NFL. This is how good of an athlete he is. And again, I talked about him being the DK Metcalf of safeties. Let's compare him and DK Metcalf. Emmanwori, 6'3", 220, a 4.38 40, a 43-inch vert. That's the best of anyone over 200 pounds in combine history. And he also had an 11.6 broad jump, which is ridiculous, and 20 bench reps. So again, he's explosive, he's fast, and he's strong. He is a ridiculous athlete at the safety position. Now to DK Metcalf. DK is 6'3", 228. He ran a 4.33 40, ridiculous for his size as well. 40.5-inch vert, 11.2 broad, and 27 bench reps. So again, you look at these two, they're the same height. Metcalf's a little bit heavier and a little bit faster, but Emmanwori is a little more explosive, higher vertical jump and broad jump, and Metcalf's a little bit stronger with 7 more bench reps. But again, basically identical physical profiles between two of the freakiest athletes we have ever seen in the NFL. And now, I get it on previous episodes for the fans who have been watching us before, or people who have just been watching us. You don't have to be fans, even if you hate us. Vikings fans for Chris, everybody else for me. If you've been watching us, again, on previous episodes, I've talked about how combine numbers are often, and to me, are basically 100% overrated and overanalyzed. But with these numbers, again, you can see measurables like this, and it tells you the type of ceiling a player has if he can actually play football, right? Again, if he's a better athlete and he's a good football player too, that's the perfect mix to make an absolute beast of a player. So is he a good player? Is Nick Emmanwori a good safety as far as college football goes? The answer to that is a resounding yes. Run support, this dude is an absolute wrecking ball and run support. He has no fear going downhill and smoking ball carriers. He'll smoke a tight end. He'll smoke a receiver. He'll smoke anybody he wants to smoke. It doesn't matter. He wants to smoke and he will go at you. And his mentality and playing aggressively as well, while being able to diagnose plays effectively, is truly a big time combo as far as that goes. He does all those things really, really well. And then he sets the tone for his defenses as well with his physical downhill style. His defenses that he's been on have kind of taken after that style that he plays after because he's so physical and so aggressive and playing downhill that all the players around him want to play the same way. And that's a really positive thing for a defense. And he's also got great ball skills and man-to-man abilities for a guy who's 6'3", 220. And he can match up with tight ends at the next level very well, which is a very, very valuable weapon for any defense because, as we know, tight ends are such a big mismatch for any offense going against a defense. So if he can match up against tight ends, the opposing team's tight end, that's going to be a huge weapon for a defense to have. Now, he does have some downsides. He can be a little bit over aggressive at times. We talked about this with a couple of our linebackers as well, or they can be out of control. Sometimes he overcommits as well. And he can kind of get himself out of position. He's not as fluid in movement as you'd like, kind of similar to DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf's big and strong and fast, but he's not as fluid as you'd like getting in and out of breaks. Kind of a similar thing for Nick Emmanwori, but it's kind of to be expected. When you're 6'3" and 230, it's hard to be like a fluid, tap dancer, ballet person with your hips. It's hard to be like that. And if you were, you'd probably be the greatest player of all time. So again, his hips are a little bit stiff and shiftier receivers give him some issues. And sometimes he also doesn't stick to his technique because he knows how physically gifted he is. So he kind of just tries to muscle on people and try to outrun people and stuff like that, where he doesn't really truly rely on his technique. But we've talked about this on previous episodes as well. That's something that can get coached out of him as well. That's something that can get technique can get helped, and coaches can help him with stuff like that. So again, Nick Emmanwori is an absolute monster. My overall takeaway, he's the best safety in this draft, 100%. You could argue Malachi Starks. There's a really good argument for him. His tape is amazing. But I think Emmanwori is the best safety in this draft. I think he's the third best overall DB behind Travis Hunter and Will Johnson in this draft as well. I think he's even a better prospect than Jahdae Barron, who's a really good corner out of Texas. And again, I think for him, Listen, for a comp for Nick Amanwari, this is one that any Seattle Seahawks fan is going to know. Any real NFL fan is going to know. This man was in the Legion of Boom. He reminds me so much of Cam Chancellor, another former Seahawk. Cam was 6'3", 232, but he ran a 4.69 40. Amanwari is 6'3", 225 and ran a 4.38. So again, he's got the size of Cam Chancellor with even more speed, which is a very, very scary thought for anybody who is going to go up against Nick Amanwari in the NFL. He doesn't have that fear level and that intimidation factor that Cam Chancellor has right now. But again, he can develop that. And that profile is the same as Cam Chancellor, who was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and a Super Bowl champ for the Seattle Seahawks. So again, if Amanwari can be a faster version of Cam Chancellor, look the hell out, NFL. That is a scary, scary proposition. As far as best fits go, obviously, just for nostalgia's sake, I'd like to see him in Seattle. That would be a cool fit, just to kind of see another big safety in Seattle. That would be cool. But I think the earliest he could go is the Bears at 10. I think the Bears could potentially pick him at 10. They need a DB, and that would be a scary sight for the Chicago Bears to also get him at 10. Also, I'm just now realizing I'm saying everybody to the Bears at 10. I don't know why. That's like the fifth person I've said potentially. I said Ashton Genty too on a previous video. Apparently the Bears have seven 10th overall picks in this NFL draft. Jeez, I keep saying the Bears. Also, the Colts at 14. I think that would be a great fit for him. The Lou Anarumo defenses, who's the new defensive coordinator for the Colts, they need good safeties. We saw it with the Bengals where they had Bell and Bates there for a little while. They already signed Cam Bynum in free agency in Indianapolis as well. So I think Amanwari would be a really, really, really good, strong safety fit to Cam Bynum's free safety. But his best fit to me, I think the Minnesota Vikings at 24 would be in a tremendous fit for Nick Amanwari. Again, Harrison Smith's kind of in his last couple of years as far as being a strong safety goes. I think that's the perfect mentor for Amanwari. Then you give him a really strong culture with Brian Flores as DC and Kevin Stefanski as the head coach and a team that's just really, really good overall. I think that would be a tremendous fit for Nick Amanwari, and I think we would see the best out of Nick Amanwari there as well. So to me, again, Amanwari is the best safety in this draft. If you want a strong safety and you want a faster Cam Chancellor, Nick Amanwari is the way to go, Chris. But again, I've rambled too long about Nick Amanwari, Chris. I'm going to kick it to you. You got any Amanwari thoughts? Let me know. And then give me your defensive back that you are looking for in this 2025 NFL draft.
My goodness. My guy. Jeez. Yeah, that is quite some talent there. My goodness. Yeah, I don't know if there's any touching that like Cam Chet, man. Yeah, imagine if he does end up there. My goodness. And you got
scary.
Got the same one probably for the next 10 or 15 years. My gosh. Talk about redoing the Legion of Boom. Jeez. Man. All right. Well, the guy I'm about to talk about, again, I think I'm on this like underdog story. I feel like that this is coming to be a thing of mine. I'm starting to find.
Well, it fits because I'm going with all the most talented first-round picks episodes. So you're going with the underdogs, and I'm going with everybody who everybody already knows.
That's valid. That's a valid point. It's just I see the last few takes that we've had that we've been talking about these different draft classes, even going back to like the offensive line. I feel like I've really like there's been like, hey, like all right, guys, y'all just choose somebody, and then we'll go talk about them, and then I always end up with the dude that's on like the second page. I'm like, I'm gonna see who's on the second page, like somebody nobody's probably talking about. So I'm in true fashion of mine, I'm gonna go that route. Again, I've heard him talked here and there. I haven't heard a ton about him though. Is Shavon? I'm mess his name up. Just letting y'all know ahead of time. I believe it's Shavon Revel. It could be said differently, but nonetheless, a cornerback out of East Carolina. He's 6'3". He is 193. He is only 22, so he is very young. In 2023, he had an overall grade of an 80.5, which was extremely high. There is a reason why I am not bringing up his 2024, which I will bring up why shortly. But in 2023, he played 12 games. He only gave up 1 touchdown in 501 snaps as a corner. To me, that is impeccable. Now, given, I will say, because of the type of team that he's playing, I'm not going to give a whole ton of credit. Like he's not in the SEC, right? So he's not playing these big time names, not playing the Georgias and, all those types of. So I'm not going to be too much into it, but I still think for me, that's an impressive stat. That you've only given up one in over 500 snaps. I think that's quite impressive myself. So when it comes to his strength, there's something I really like about this guy. And again, I've just recently started really delving into him, not only as a player, but also as a person. And so I watched a lot of his interviews, and this is before I even looked at his tape. I was impressed by how he handled himself, to be quite honest. And the answers that he gave was quite impressive. I mean, to this guy saying, he's being asked, you get asked a million questions between the combine and every other interview that you're out through the process of getting into the draft. He was asked, I think it was from an NFL analyst. It might have been at the combine, it might have been elsewhere. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I know it was at one of these levels where there's a ton of different players there, right? And it's a specific guy that I watch all the time on YouTube. He's with the NFL. He does a lot of draft tracking. So he asked him specifically if he could talk to any cornerback, either current or previous, like who he would go with. And his first thing was, I have more than one. Like that tells me like you're not even thinking like, oh, I'm just going to my favorite dude. You have several particular people that you are interested in learning from, which I find impressive myself. But the one name that I just think is like so wild to me is that he brought up Prime. Like that to me, and you don't hear a lot of it from these younger kids because I don't feel like they know a ton about him unless they've actually watched the game. And like his continuance of these questions that he's being asked to me is just crazy impressive. And for me, if I'm looking at being a head coach or your GM, and this is who you're having these conversations with, and this kid, even though he is super young, he definitely gives me like grown man vibes where he knows who he is as a man. He is comfortable with who he is on and off the field. And he is definitely someone you can actually have a deep conversation with and who has intellect that you can actually have it kind of a correlation. And there isn't like a lot of drop off of like, I'm not going to say like, never mind. I'm not even going to go in that route. But anyways, nonetheless, his way of articulating himself, I'm just going to say is impressive. It's being that he is so young, because I speak, especially having, sisters and not sisters, nieces and nephews and all those beautiful things. They're young. So the manner in which they handle speaking with maybe older individuals is a little bit different, and it doesn't always make sense nor translate. So I was just impressed with him overall. But to be quite honest, so looking at his strengths outside of just his ability to actually have a open conversation and be able to dissect things so easily, he is a press man coverage is his bread and butter. Like that is something he said himself. Like he's been doing it since he was a child, and he's a very, very good press man coverage guy. Like if that's what you're looking for cornerback wise, as like almost like a you're looking at, who do we have on the Patriots? I just lost his name. I just said it not that long ago.
Gonzalez,
right. So if you're looking for a dude who can like basically stay with the best person they have down the line, this is your guy. He is a press man coverage type of guy. He will bully them at the line. He never loses track of his guy at all. He has the ability to keep up with them all the way down the line, down the field. You don't have to worry about that. He never stops playing. The whistle never stops. So there is one clip I looked at in particular where I watched where everyone around him, including the opposing offense, thought that the play was completely dead. So they didn't think anything else was going on. No whistle was blown. And he literally grabbed the ball and took off and actually scored a defensive touchdown. That tells me that you're paying attention. You're not just, okay, everybody else gave up, so I gave up, but there's no whistle. He is going to play from the start to the finish, which to me, that's what you want. Another big thing for me, which I kind of already highlighted, but I'll highlight it more on like a football focus, is his football IQ. He literally mentions the importance of studying your receiver to better understand the best way to go against them. And that's within the interview that he did, which again, I was quite impressed with, because to be 22 and to sit there with someone who's been analyzing football probably for the last better part of like 10, 15 years and to be able to break down what you feel is so important for that particular position, to me, was quite impressive. So to me, that was a big time green check for me. Dude is smart. He's patient. He is very physical at the line of scrimmage. Like, if you watch any step, he is very physical, which is what you want. That's one thing I had about Gonzalez that was my concern when he came in, was how aggressive and how physical he was going to be at the line, which you still see. He's still kind of learning how to do. Is be aggressive. He's great at it down the field, but at the line of scrimmage, you don't see a lot of him like trying to push them off of their route or anything like that. This guy, totally in it. And one of the things that I love about him, again, is even though he is a young guy, he's only 22. He's coming in as a rookie. This upcoming 2025 season, he 100% gives me the veteran mentality. He reminds me a lot, again, and I just mentioned his name, personality-wise, is Christian Gonzalez. Coming into the league in 2023, he was very much the same way. He was very much like on the outskirts. He is kind of, he's reserved. He's very calm. He has a very calm demeanor. He's a real kind of cool, down to earth type of guy. On the field, he is a monster. He is devastating, and that's exactly who this guy is. And he's on the, like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm a nice guy, but on the field, I'm a dog, like a dog with a capital D. This guy just oozes confidence. I love it. You can't like that more, is to have such a young guy. He was so confident in his ability. It's just, to me, it's so very impressive. And I'm rooting for this guy no matter where he ends up, just based off the things that I was able to find myself. And that's not even a long period of time. So I'm sure if you spend more time actually delving into this guy, I can't imagine, the love that people are going to feel for him, especially whatever team he goes to. His fans are going to love him 100%. Now, the biggest con, which I mentioned earlier I was going to bring up, is the reason I didn't mention his 2024 tape was because his 2024 got cut short because of an ACL injury. And that is the biggest issue at the moment, is how is his health and how is he going to be able to jump back in? Is he able to jump back in and go back to where he was in 2023, coming back from that ACL injury? Because from my understanding, prior to the injury, he was kind of looked at probably being maybe a day one pick, probably higher up in the first round. Now he's kind of maybe a late second, probably I would assume maybe even in the third round potentially. So I think that's the biggest fear for sure. Does he need help with zone coverage improvement? Absolutely. He's already specified that himself. He knows, and again, impressive. He already knows where he needs to improve. Again, literally just listen to his interviews, dude. I could talk about this dude all day long, because he literally knows where he needs to improve. He's aware of it. He wants to improve on it. He's trying to improve on it. And you would honestly, I'm not surprised that he's going to need help with his own coverage, because it's a little bit harder than just press man, right? Because it's the difference between you only have to cover one guy, and this is the guy you're paying attention to, versus you got to cover an entire half of a field. So not only do you have to know what's going on with the quarterback and one receiver, no, now you need to know how many receivers are probably going to be in this area, and I have to know what their routes are at the same time, and to be able to know the technique in order to handle that depending on who gets the ball. You know what I mean? So it's a lot different than just doing press man, which he knows press man is his bread and butter. He loves it. But the fact that he's already aware of, like, I need to change it, I know I need help with it, and I know why it's important, to me is just crazy impressive. But quite honestly, like, well, it's definitely going to be a project. I feel like we don't know, like, where is health wise. He's only has limited amount of time spent at a starter full time. So whichever team takes a shot on him, they're going to get a really good player at a heavy discount, to be quite honest. This to me is representative of me anyway, how I feel, of how we talked about Josh Simmons when we were talking about the offensive linemen, of just like somebody is going to get probably what should have been a top 10 pick, probably in the bottom first or maybe even in the second, because of the injury. So either way, whoever takes him is going to get a hell of a discount. So I don't know. I won't be surprised, if in, let's say, 2026 or 2027, we are going to start hearing his name maybe a little more often, as far as this dude is always around the ball. He is giving these wide receivers a hard day in the office. Like, you're going to hear his name often on Sundays. I would not be surprised by that at all. Now, are they going to redshirt him because of the injury? Is he coming back from the injury? Like, we don't know where he's at in that process. So I think he heard it early enough to maybe he will be able to get back by training camp. But with the right team, again, you look at teams that are maybe a little more defensive heavy, that know how to handle, dealing with maybe younger people coming into the defense, because, Eagles, they draft so in depth with their defense. Like, they're all you could look at the Lions as well. They had a lot of depth at one point, and then their entire depth just got dismantled last year. So, but you want a team that's going to know how to make sure that he's going to come back, and he's going to come back at full speed, whether that's let him redshirt, give him time to get acclimated, and then kind of work him in next year. Either way, whoever's going to get him is going to get a hell of a guy. And I cannot wait to find out, where he goes and who decides to take a shot at him.
Man, like you mentioned, Chris, he really the only negative with him is that ACL. Like you mentioned, he could be better in zone coverage, but I mean, elite speed and athleticism. He's 6'2". He's got long arms, like physical corner, tough. Like what else do you want from a corner? Like that's all that you would want from a cornerback one. And I think, to your point, Chris, I think if he was healthy, I think if he would have played last season, I think we'd be talking about him as a potential cornerback one, maybe after Travis Hunter, maybe after Will Johnson in this class, but he would be right up there. We would be talking about him right up there with those guys in this class as well. And by the way, Chris, I also, while you were talking, I Googled the pronunciation of his name, and he specifically said it's not Siobhan, it's Savone Revel. So you kind of take out the H. Yeah, you kind of take out the H and emphasize the O. So it's Savone Revel is kind of how he wants to is how his name is pronounced. So
nice.
But yeah, like you mentioned, Revel is a legit cornerback in this class, and he's someone that if he was healthy, man, somebody's and like you mentioned, when he does get healthy, someone in the second round, maybe at the end of the first, maybe he slides to the third, somewhere in that range, is going to get a cornerback that they're really, really excited to have on their football team. But as far as other defensive backs, obviously we only talked about a couple. I wanted to mention some other defensive backs. I just talked about a couple, the two corners that I want to talk about. Travis Hunter from Colorado. Everybody talks about him. We talked about him a bunch on this show already. We know what he's capable of on both sides of the ball. Will Johnson as well. I've talked about him. Yeah, of course, with Travis Hunter. Will Johnson as well. I've talked about him as well a lot as well. He is another one who went down this year to injury, but if he didn't go down this year to injury, he could have easily been looked at as the best corner in this class. He was locking dudes down, getting pick sixes before he got hurt for Michigan last year. Jahdae Barron for Texas. A lot of people like him as well. I've seen a lot of smoke about him to the Niners at 11th overall. People like Jahdae Barron a lot. Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. 4.28 40, blazing speed, got really good makeup speed. Watch out for him potentially in the second round of the draft. And another second round option, Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. He's another one that could potentially go second round. He's another one that got hurt last year that he also could have been in contention for that cornerback one role as well. So again, some of these cornerbacks, there's a lot of talent, but they've got some sort of injury concerns that they might slide down. So you might be potentially getting a really, really good corner in the late first, early second round of this year's draft. And safeties as well. I talked about Nick Manwaria, obviously. I talked about the guy who a lot of people think is the best safety in this draft, Malachi Starks out of Georgia. His tape is unbelievable. He might be the best safety in this class as well. Kevin Winston Jr., again, another one who got hurt last year, who might potentially be a really, really good ad for one of these teams. He was at Penn State last year. He had a knee injury as well. He's another really hard-nosed, hard-hitting downhill safety. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. He's just a playmaker. He's all around the ball all the time for the Fighting Irish last year. Andrew Makuba, anybody who knows Texas knows Andrew Makuba's name. He was big in their run last year. And another guy who was big in the national championship run for the Buckeyes last year is Lathan Ransom. Be on the lookout for him as far as rounds 3 through 5 go, because some team is going to get a really, really good player and a really, really good leader in Lathan Ransom later on in the draft. But again, there is tons of defensive backs. Some of them come with a little bit of risk in this year's draft, but there is a ton of upside for these DBs in this 2025 NFL draft, and your team may get one to change your team's fortunes for 2025.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.